GM, good morning. Welcome to the Milk Road Show, the daily crypto show where we keep you in the crypto loop like that one friend who knows everybody's business. I'm your host, Jay Hamilton, and today we are joined by Jesse Eckel, a fellow podcaster, YouTube star, crypto investor. This guy's amazing. So excited for you guys to meet him. First time on the show. We're going to talk about altcoin season. Is it coming? Is it ever going to happen? We're going to talk about why Jesse is so confident that it is in fact coming. We're also going to talk about why Jesse is not so confident in the meme coin super cycle thesis. And we might finish with why Jesse believes that crypto is really up only for the next few decades. Before we jump in, there has been a scam going around the internet that we have launched a milk token. I want to set the record straight. There is no milk token. We have no plans and will never launch a Milk Road token. So if you see one, if you get an email, please avoid. Do not click. It is a scam. Be safe out there, folks. As always, before we jump in, we need to take a minute to hear from our sponsors. Do you own your data? Nope. Every post, click, and search you make is controlled and monetized by unseen giants. I've had enough. It's time for Navigate, where their mission is to give back data ownership to you and share profits with you. That's right, money in your pocket. How, you ask? First, the Navigate browser extension makes it easy to turn your everyday browsing into passive income. Second, the Data Quest game, where you can boost your earnings and help train their AI. Visit navigate.io today to earn and own your data. Meet Uphold, a trading platform that's changing the way you think about money. Imagine this, earning up to 4.9% APY on your US dollars. No catches, no lockup periods, and no fees. And yes, it's FDIC insured up to $2.5 million. They offer access to over 300 digital assets, which you can trade, store, and exchange with confidence, knowing Uphold operates with a 100% reserve and a transparent model. Create your account, fund it with a few taps, and you're ready to go. Click the link in the description and join Uphold today. Jesse, welcome to the Milk Road Show.
Glad to be here.
Awesome to have you, my man. Okay, let's jump right in. You seem to be very confident right now that we are going to have an altcoin season and that we're going to have it soon. What makes you so confident in that right now?
Well, a lot of different reasons. I guess we'll start with maybe just kind of the macro setup. Right now, from a macro, okay, well, actually, let's start with the 4-year cycle. Okay, we'll start with the 4-year cycle. If you look at the 4-year cycle that the crypto has been on for the last, since the inception of Bitcoin, it's kind of followed this very specific pattern where every 4 years, it kind of does almost the same thing. And every time people say, hey, this time it's going to be different, it's not going to do the same thing. And every time it ends up doing the exact same thing. And according to the 4-year cycle, we're hitting the point where in 2025, we should see that parabolic rally. And that lines up with what we've seen in past cycles. So you have that. You have this kind of like consistent 4-year cycle pointing towards a rally hitting in 2025. But outside of that, a lot of people point to liquidity. So they'll say, hey, the 4-year cycle has nothing to do with, the Bitcoin halving, all these kind of things. Mm-hmm. Yeah. They'll point to it and say, hey, really, this is all about global liquidity. And if you look at global liquidity metrics, you can see that we have the Fed cutting, right? So with the Fed's cutting, we have China doing stimulus, we have Europe cutting. So we have a lot of liquidity coming into the market at a time that lines up with this 4-year cycle that's kind of played out on repeat. So all these things play into like this idea that, hey, we're going to have a really good year, maybe let's say for Bitcoin in 2025. And when you have a really good year for Bitcoin, that always ends up working its way into the altcoins. And that has to do with like basic psychology of like when Bitcoin goes up and a lot of people miss out, they always show up and they say, hey, we missed out on Bitcoin, but what else can we invest into? Like what could maybe be the next Bitcoin? And usually that's like Ethereum. Maybe this cycle you'll have also Solana. It'll be things like that. Like what's the next Bitcoin? And they'll look kind of like the biggest, closest related things. And then from there, when Bitcoin and when Ethereum and Solana go up, they're going to do the same thing. And they're going to say, okay, Ethereum and Solana already went up. What are going to be the next things to go up? And so maybe it's like Uniswap, this. And they keep doing that on a repeat as new participants show up until they've worked their way all the way down to the very bottom of the stack when the latest participants show up and they say, okay, everything of value has gone up. What about these Ponzi's that are like doing 10,000% APY? Maybe they'll go up as well. And then that's when you have like Ponzi season. That's when you'll probably likely see a really strong season for meme coins. And then usually the whole thing collapses because a bunch of leverage enters the system, and that's we go into winter, and that's how it plays out.
I love that you brought up the importance of liquidity as a more important factor. I actually don't know if you were saying this, but our view is that liquidity is a much more important factor than the halving. And everybody thinks that is the halving that is causing these 4-year cycles, but it's really monetary control and monetary influence from governments that is doing this and has been doing this for the beginning. It just happens that the halving and these monetary cycles line up every 4 years and have basically since Bitcoin was launched 15 years ago. Just happens to be a coincidence. We had a long show all about this. If you guys want to go back to this past show from earlier this week where we actually talked all about why this is happening, check that show out, guys. Also, on the psychological effects, one thing that I think people forget, and I wonder if you agree with this, is that it is, if you're entering into a new market and you come in and there's an asset that costs $70,000 or $100,000 or whatever Bitcoin is at that point, you don't want to buy that. You're like, that's too expensive. Even though you can
Yep.
fractionally buy it, even though you could buy 1 cent of it, you want to buy the thing that costs, 0.001 cent because you feel more rich and you can buy more of it. Do you think that has an impact?
No, exactly. I think that has a massive impact, and it's just again, everyone has this feeling of missing out that they missed the opportunity, and that doesn't feel good. Like people that didn't invest in Solana when it skyrocketed, they felt like they missed that opportunity. We were talking about this a little bit before we started, and because they felt like they missed that opportunity, they looked for what they could invest into to try to catch up on that trade. And so, what a lot of people did is they looked around Solana and they said, okay, what projects, what alts are on Solana? Those will probably go up as well. There wasn't a ton of alts on Solana at the time. What you saw was like NFTs, like Mad Lads, which is the main collection on Solana, ended up skyrocketing. And then you saw the things that got to the market quickest, which was meme coins, also ended up skyrocketing. And so people are always going to reflexively, when an asset goes up, look for whatever the beta trade is. And it's that's not going to change anytime soon. Like that's just how people are wired for whatever reason.
Mhm. So I think the question and the theory that a lot of people have in this cycle is that this cycle is different, right? Because Bitcoin did hit all-time highs back in March, and we didn't see the typical rotation to alts. What makes you think that we are going to see it this time? Why do you still think this cycle is going to be similar to past?
Well, Bitcoin hit all-time high early. That is true, but we also had the ETF, which is a different development. I don't think that
Yes.
really throws anything off. That was just, hey, we had this catalyst that pushed Bitcoin to an all-time high early. But people also kind of just need time to recover. Like they almost need to forget their pain they experienced last bear market and kind of be open to investing into crypto. I've also heard the case that although Bitcoin hit all-time high, we had an insane amount of money printing back in 2021, 2020. And that has caused a lot of inflation. So if you actually inflation adjusted, look at Bitcoin's all-time high, it's actually about 80,000. It's like 80,700 or something like that. And so inflation adjusted, we actually haven't broken Bitcoin's all-time high. And I think really what you're looking for overall is just a really clean break. So I think once we do hit over 80,000, that'll be kind of like the bat signal where people are ready. I think they're ready now. I've gotten texts from friends where they've reached out and been like, hey, I saw Bitcoin's going up. That's pretty crazy. Do you think it'll last? And different things
There's
like
the
that.
signal. There's the signal right there.
Yeah. And so I think once we have a clean break over 80K, that'll be a really strong signal to people like, geez, I missed out. There's obviously something going on here. Trump's talking about a Bitcoin national reserve or whatever, or strategic reserve. I think people are going to start to catch up on informationally, and that's when they're going to look around and say, hey, what else can I snag here?
Mhm. Can you also explain one of the other things that happens when Bitcoin uh, hits all-time highs, and also the other Solana and Ethereum? You can almost put in this bucket too as the other two majors. Is there's a lot of businesses and whales and people in the space that all of a sudden are rich and
Yep, wealth
have a
effects.
lot of money. And what do they do with that, and how do they act in that way?
Yeah, so I think this is a lot. This is relevant to Bitcoin for sure. But I think even more impactful is Ethereum because Ethereum, as far as DeFi across every single chain, like Ethereum's everywhere, and a lot of DAOs, treasuries, like they're full of Ethereum. They
Everybody
hold
holds.
everyone holds it. So I'll use that as an example. When Ethereum goes up in value, let's like say it doubles in value. That means all these treasuries, all these DAOs, all these wallets holding Ethereum, the wealth in that wallet doubles as well. And so what'll happen is it's called a wealth effect, where it kind of trickles down and bleeds down into everything else. Also, there's a lot of DeFi pairs that are paired with ETH as well. It trickles down, and it trickles down in a lot of different ways. I mean, just the initial wealth created is one way. Another way is what a lot of people will do is they'll take their ETH or they'll take their Bitcoin and they'll leverage up against it. They'll go on something like Aave, and they'll say, hey, I don't want to sell my Bitcoin. I don't want to sell my ETH, but I'll take a loan for like 25% of its value and then go use that to go invest in alts because I don't want to miss out on that. And so that's a form of money creation. That's more liquidity getting created. And this is like how it gets out of control, right? So like once these things go into effect, why you see this kind of parabolic run up is because a lot of leverage really rapidly enters into the crypto market. And it enters via things like this, where people are taking out loans against their crypto. They're taking out loans on exchanges. They're overextending their credit card debt. They're taking out a second mortgage on their house. They're putting in their life savings. Those aren't necessarily leverage, but they're like forms of maybe instability that later end up causing the entire market to collapse. And the reason this happens, the reason people feel confident to do this, is because if you have an asset that you genuinely believe can go up only, then like it would make sense to like put everything you have in it, right? If there was an asset like you knew for sure was like, hey, this thing's only going to go up for the rest of time, why wouldn't you leverage up to the max and put everything you have into it? And what happens with Bitcoin is people repeatedly say like, hey, this thing's going to crash, and it doesn't crash, it goes higher. And then they're like, it's going to crash now, and then it doesn't crash and goes higher. And then they say, actually, it's going to crash now, and then it goes even higher. And they start to believe that this thing just can't die, and it's just going to keep going higher for forever. And that's why they get this confidence of like, wow, this is up only. I'm throwing everything in, parabolic run up. But then, so it's like you always have to have this, like people get overconfident, throw in leverage. And that always is going to lead to a collapse because it makes it unhealthy and unstable. And then the whole thing kind of falls apart.
Thank you, human psychology, for
Yeah.
being so predictable and repeatable. So just to touch on, you do believe that we will continue to be in these cycles. You think, because one thing that I think a lot of people make the mistake is it is so easy. Maybe not quite yet. We're not in that parabolic, like euphoric stage quite yet. I think we're getting close to that. You know, the election was sort of the last catalyst, that really the last checkbox that we were all waiting for. And obviously, Trump winning is a win for crypto, regardless of what your own political views are. Is definitely better for the crypto space. And we're in a position now where it feels like it's going to be up only. And what that leads is, though, it leads people to say, oh, it's up only forever. And Bitcoin's never going to come down, or whatever alt or whatever token you're investing in. But these cycles are, in my mind, are never going away. We will always have cycles. Does it mean Bitcoin's going to drop the same that it dropped in previous cycles? Probably not. Like the ETF and all these other factors dampen that. But I never want an investor to sit there and be like, this is my last chance to get in. Because if you think like that, that's when you make bad calls.
So I do think like the 4-year pattern will probably end at some point, because
Mm-hmm.
at the point that people believe in it is the point it can no longer exist. Like people have to always be like, I don't know if it's going to happen this time for it to be able to happen, because otherwise people will front run it and then it won't happen, right? So at some point I think the 4-year cycle won't exist. But as far as like liquidity cycles, as far as like psychology, that stuff will always play out. Again, so if you have Bitcoin going up for an extended period of time, that is always going to lead to an overconfidence, too much leverage in the system, which will also always lead to a massive correction and collapse. Like those things are pretty consistent. I do think crypto is likely to continue going up for the long term. And I think for a couple different reasons. One is just the insane amount of debt and money printing that has to happen. We have in the U.S. we have it's what is it, $36 trillion worth of debt, and over the past 50 years, I think it's 4 years, four of the last 50 years has the U.S. been profitable. Like we've had a surplus in those years. And if you take like the amount of like profitability we've had, it's like 300 billion or something like that. And you were to like 10x it, and you're like, okay, instead of just 4 years, 40 years out of the last 50, we were profitable. If over the next 50 years, 40 of those 50 were profitable at the same level, and we did that for infinity, we could never pay. Like there is no way to pay off the debt. Like we do not make enough, even in those profitable years, even if you were to 10x it, to ever pay off the debt. And so, really, the only path forward, like that, is to inflate away that debt, and that is going to be money printing. And the Fed's in a really weird place. And when you have inflation, that's going to push assets up. That's going to push capital into something like Bitcoin that the Fed can't print. And so when people say we're going to have $1 million or $5 million Bitcoin, they're not necessarily saying that like it's going to be $1 million or $5 million in today's value. What they're saying is $1 million is going to be worth a lot less in the future, and that's why we're going to have $1 million Bitcoin. Um, so I think on that hand, like crypto just will keep going up in USD terms because we have to keep printing. There's like no other way out of the debt.
Mhm.
On the other hand, I think if you look at demographics, they're insanely bullish for crypto. And the reason that is it's called the Great Wealth Transfer, and it's like over the next 20 years, $79 trillion worth of wealth is going to transfer from the older generation to the younger generation because like older people will eventually pass away. The younger generation will inherit it. By and far, the majority of older people do not invest in crypto. They just like too complicated. They don't want to touch it. They're just old school. They're in stocks or whatever. Like they have the vast majority of the wealth, and they won't touch crypto. It's the younger generation. The younger generation loves digital assets. They love crypto. They're like YOLOing into meme coins. They're like investing their life savings into Bitcoin, Ethereum, and whatever. But they don't have very much money. Like they're actually pretty poor relatively. And so when that $78 trillion worth of wealth transferred from the older generation to the younger generation, I just don't see why the younger generation is suddenly going to be like, okay, now I'm going to invest in stocks. I have a lot of money. I think what they're going to do is going to be like, oh, finally, I have a lot of money. Now it's time to go hard on crypto. And so I think you're just going to see more and more wealth transfer into crypto. And as that wealth transfers into crypto, you're going to see more and more of the traditional asset industry come into crypto because that's going to be where the money's at.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You just nailed it on that take. And I just got to double down. If you guys want to go back, there's a show we did with Tyler Neville all about the global debt crisis and particularly the US debt. And he puts out a great case of why these cycles are going to continue. And basically exactly what you're saying, Jesse, goes deeper into that view. Let's talk about what what tokens are you personally excited about right now, or any trades that you really like right now? And I always ask this, not from the perspective of financial advice, but more from the perspective of understanding where you see opportunities, and are they short term, medium term, long term? How are you playing them? Everybody obviously has very different investment points of view in terms of their risk tolerance, but also in terms of their time frame. So if you could put them out in that way, that would be great.
Yeah. I think first off, I'll just say that like obviously none of this is investment advice, and also just copying kind of trades you see online is always a recipe for disaster. Even if like I mentioned a token that's going to do 1,000x from here, I've actually done that before, and people have lost money somehow like during the process. And it really I don't understand it, but like if you don't do your own research and have your own conviction, even if a token is pretty much up only, you will find a way to lose money on that trade. So just be aware of that. Uh, as far as like what I have conviction in right now, I would say like as a sector that I think is really underappreciated in crypto is crypto gaming. I have like a ton of conviction in the crypto gaming sector. I think it's really a perfect product market fit for crypto. Just like the idea of like digital collectibles, digital assets that you get in these games. I think, especially with the rise of AI and like kind of like a coming job loss wave, I think you're going to have a lot more value come into these games than most people understand. And I think most people are kind of locked in this 2021 mindset for crypto games, and they don't really realize the value prop is just digital ownership, like taking your Fortnite skins and you own them and you can sell them and they can accrue value. And you look at NFT PFPs that reached millions of dollars of value. You got to believe that there's going to be, if Fortnite did this today, there would be Fortnite skins worth well over $1 million. But they don't unlock that. You're basically leasing that Fortnite skin from Epic Games. They can retain ownership. But unlocking that value for players, I think is going to bring a lot of value, and I think that's going to be a huge subsector of crypto. That's like almost its own little world in bubble. So um, doing a couple different plays within that sector, but outside of that, right now,
What are your plays in gaming? Because the thing I find difficult about gaming is you kind of gotta pick the game, right? And that's the hard part is you don't know which game is gonna hit. Like, maybe you like Prime, and maybe Prime does really well because Parallel and their games do really well, but maybe those aren't the games that hit. Like, that's the tough part about picking a gaming token in my mind.
So in my mind, it's going to play out like this. Picking the winner is going to be really hard, and I
Yeah.
don't really know if I can. But let's say like Gunzel off the grid was like huge, right? Like that recently took the whole world by storm. There was all these players, all these streamers were streaming it. And let's imagine they launch. I don't have any sort of early exposure to it, but imagine they launch and their token goes to like $10 billion. Um, what are people going to do? People are going to look at that and they're going to say, "Wow, that's amazing. This has been so successful. I wonder what the next Guns is going to be." And they're going to look for the beta token. So I'm more doing narrative plays because I feel like that's
Mhm.
easier. Where it's just so I'm paying attention to like really small tokens today that have really strong sticky narratives that I feel like will spread around. Um, One of them, it's really tiny, highly volatile. You probably lose all your money if you get into it. It's high risk. So, but it's called Una. It's on base. And it's from Unagi. It's this team. They're all ex Ubisoft developers. They worked on like Far Cry, The Division, different games like that. And so I feel like the narrative is, hey, these are ex Ubisoft developers. They worked on Far Cry, The Division. That's a really sticky narrative. And if you're thinking of something like Guns taking off hits 10 billion, well, as people work their way down the stack, they're going to find that one. They're going to be like, oh my gosh, this one, it's super cheap. It's sitting at like, in the low millions in market cap. Uh, and then that's going to push it up. So for me, it's more of a I'm playing beta narrative plays like that,
Mhm.
but that are strong. They're not like there's a lot of vaporware. I think games in the crypto space that really don't have any sort of compelling narrative. So that's a and the team's actually pretty good. The team has been building and doing things, and they're actually a pretty good team as far as like development wise. So that's crypto gaming. Um, I think crypto has kind of taken two different paths. So you have like DeFi, open finance, in that whole sector, this like a more of a serious, really world changing technology. And then you have this other subsector of crypto that is like complete degenerate gambling, meme coins, prediction markets, betting, like that kind of sector. And I view them as almost two different parts of crypto. And I think both are going to flourish and do really well. Um, but as far as the gambling sector, one of my big bets and high conviction plays is this project called Winner. It's on Arbitrum. They're building basically infrastructure to launch prediction markets, to launch meme coin launch pads, like gambling front ends, that kind of whole thing. And for me, it's like more of a bet on that sector continuing to thrive, people continuing to want to gamble. You have apps out here, and I don't know if this is valid or not. They claim this. Rollbit claims they're doing like 30 to 50 million dollars a month in revenue, which is crazy, insane.
It's
Eh,
crazy.
Yeah, but their token doesn't reflect that. They do have the on-chain burns to match it, but I go back and forth on that. But let's say that's legit. Like that's actually really crazy and shows that there's a huge amount of value in the space that's untapped. And so it's kind of a bet maybe in that direction. Um, and I have a bunch of other plays that are kind of like some narrative based. I focus on a lot of alts, some lower cap. I do mid caps too. IMX, uh,
Mhm.
different things like that. Yeah. So
Mhm.
I won't go
Mhm.
through everything, but you kind of get the gist.
No, no, that's great. Appreciate you highlighting a few for us. Let's talk about meme coins for a second. Um, Murad obviously came in hot at Token 2049 with his meme coin super cycle thesis presentation that went viral. And meme coins, I mean, his presentation was accurate. Meme coins have outperformed in this cycle. So far, they have been, it's been Bitcoin and meme coins. Um, what do you think happens with meme coins in the rest of this cycle?
So, I mean, you're kind of already seeing this play out, but my thesis has been that meme coins. The reason I think meme coins took off in the first place was purely Solana went up. Because Solana went up, people looked for beta. There was no really solid alts on within Solana, and the fastest things to market were meme coins. So meme coins hit the market really quick. They were really easy to speculate on, gamble on, and they just took the market by storm. And because of that, people kind of over focused and over allocated into meme coins, thinking like, oh my gosh, meme coins are like taking over everything. DeFi is actually stupid. All these teams building real projects are stupid. And it's all going to be about meme coins. And then people started looking for the beta of Solana, where they're like, meme coins are big on Solana. Maybe the next big meme coin is going to be on Base or this and this, and they just kind of follow down this trail. And I think people are over kind of estimating the impact of meme coins and really not understanding that like a lot of that was just purely a wealth effect from Sol. I do think meme coins obviously have some sort of product market use case. I think there is some sort of culture around meme coins where people do enjoy them, and I don't think they're going to go away anytime soon. And in fact, I will say that during this cycle, there's going to be some massive winners in the meme coin space. And probably some of the biggest success stories within crypto are going to be like of people taking $100 and turning it into millions of dollars are probably going to be from meme coins. But that is going to be the far minority. Most people will lose money trading meme coins. The 99.999% of meme coins will not do well or succeed. They're basically like lottery tickets. Like it is really just gambling. You could probably make an argument for like Doge and stuff like that isn't gambling. There's some like maybe fundamentals there that you could tap into just because it's so large in size. But for the vast majority of them, it's literally you're buying a lottery ticket, and that'll stick around. People are going to keep doing that, but it's not like meme coins are going to take over DeFi and like altcoins aren't going to. That the narrative was always that like there's so many meme coins that liquidity is fractured so much that like alts won't survive and therefore you should just invest in meme coins. And I think that's a stupid argument because for one, if liquidity is spread around so thin, then also meme coins would suffer from that too. It's not like they magically would be immune to that. But on top of that, if there was a million DEX tokens, there was like a million different tokens for all these various DEXs. The only thing that's really bearish for is DEXs and DEX tokens. It's not like bearish for crypto as a whole. You allocate to one or two DEXs, but then you're going to also allocate to Bitcoin and gaming and DeSci and DPIN, and those are all different subsectors. And so I think with meme coins, it's one thing. It's like one bag, and people are going to have their like small degenerate meme coin bag that's like fun. It's just for play. But it's not like it's going to take over all of crypto. And again, most people will actually lose putting money into meme coins, and using it as an investing strategy is just a really, really bad idea.
And I love your adult in the room take. We need more of that, my man. The quote there is, yeah, most people will lose money on meme coins, but the only stories that you'll hear are the people that made 1000x on meme coins.
And I should probably give context so people don't think I'm coping. I've probably made more money than most people on meme coins. I had a single play where I stuck in like $3,000, and on paper in my wallet, it turned into like $3 million. But there wasn't liquidity to match that. So I could probably, at the height, I probably could have sold for like 100K liquidity. So it's like not quite the same thing. But still, like
which is also the point of meme coins, right? Like that's what happens
yeah.
to everybody, right? Not to be able to exit at that type of gain is nearly impossible.
Exactly. So I've made money on meme coins. I'm not coping. I'm just telling people like facts. Like you are way better off investing. Like think of the barrier to entry to launching a meme coin. It takes like your grandma could do it in 2 seconds. It's as easy as posting on social media. The barrier to entry to launching a DeFi project is actually really hard. Like you have to do hard work, and there's like actual quality checks there. And so it's fundamentally going to be more valuable in the long run than something like a meme coin. So you are better off being with most of your bag, being really careful, investing in like actually good project with some solid fundamentals than you are just YOLOing your life savings into meme coins, which will likely cause you to lose everything.
Likely cause you to lose everything. Don't forget that, folks. There you go. Stay safe out there. Jesse, thank you so much for joining us today. Absolute pleasure to have you on the show. Everybody listening in, if you don't follow Jesse on Twitter or check out his YouTube videos, make sure you do. We're going to throw a link in the show notes to his Twitter and his YouTube. He makes awesome videos just like we do, keeping you guys informed. And as you can tell, in a very responsible way. He's not going to show you guys a bunch of shit tokens to tell you to invest in. He's going to give you the cold hard facts that you need to hear, which we need more of in this somewhat wild west of crypto. Jesse, thanks again for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome. Everybody listening in, have a wicked awesome day. We'll see you tomorrow. As always, if you liked today's episode, please hit subscribe and make sure you follow us so you don't miss out on the next one. There's also a link in the description to our free 5-minute daily newsletter where we simplify crypto for you while making you laugh. And if you're willing to step up your crypto investing game, we're going to also leave a link for Milk Road Pro. You get access to our portfolio where you can see exactly what we are buying. This is your number one resource to help you invest successfully in crypto. One final note, this show is for educational purposes only, and nothing we say is financial advice. Investing in crypto or any asset is risky, and you should never invest more than you can afford to lose. Thanks so much for listening in, my friends. Have a wicked awesome day.